Great name, my beautiful people. I go by the name Shota De Olusegun. In this particular video, I want to tell us what the non-trivial zeros of Riemann hypothesis, what they are all about. And so I'm going to explain how the non-trivial zeros are related to prime numbers. And then I'll tell us the reality of having the Riemann hypothesis being solved as half pointer to the O. So that is what we're going to actually explore in this particular video. Now the title is The Genuine Solution of Riemann Hypothesis by Formula of Everything. So we're going to explore the authenticity of the solution that we have by applying formula of everything. So now when you look at this diagram, if you have been following my video, you'll be conversant with it, with this diagram, and you know that we have prime counting function to give us jumping powers, and there is no way we have the jumping powers without having reaction of that in energy. So we have the jumping powers in time, action, and we have reaction of that. And then we know that when you consider the long duration of time, we're going to have this smooth shaft that we have below. And so as a result of that, we could have, the couples of zeros that we have, because we're going to really, have this balanced momentum to give us the couple of zeros as we have. So we have reaction of movement in time. We have reaction of movement in time, and then we have reaction of that in energy. So when you look at this diagram, you can see that by having prime numbers to be jumping powers, and so there is possibility for us to have this potential energy at the topmost level. And potential energy must actually do work, which will result to free fall. And that is why we could have the vertical lined up of zeros. And the initial one is the blue zeros that we have right here. They are the real zeros, which will be at the central point. And then you can see that the trajectory of the vertically lined up zeros are actually beyond the limit of the ray axis, and so we have it to be transcendental to connect to higher dimension. So now the non-trivial zeros on the critical strips, they serve as mirrored version of the real zeros, and they are the half pointer to the real object. So now for us to have idea of what I'm talking about, even in 3D, you can see that when you observe an object, you only get to see the half portion of the object. And then you get to realize that the object is 3D object by intuition. So you have the observation perspective to be half, and then you complete the other half by using your intuition endowment. So now, with that alone, you can get to see the glimpse of reality. So there is no way you can actually have any point in the universe without having it being inversely related to another point. So definitely we have information at substrate dimension to the higher dimension, which will give us the unified identity of 3D. And even though we have the unified identity of 3D, we still have the embedded 2D. And that is why we often have that phenomenon of having half perspective of reality. So now, when we'll explore this, you can get to see that on the critical strip, as we have on this particular diagram, we have the non-trivial zeros. and then the non-trivial zeros are being suspended to the central zero. The central zero will actually be transcendental to connect to the higher dimension, and so when we have double worth of the non-trivial zeros, we can get to the real object. That is what the non-trivial zeros are actually telling us about reality of the universe. So now there is another diagram I want you to look at, which is this particular diagram. When you look at this particular equation, you can see this is the derivation of time energy wave function. By applying this function, we see that at this point where we have this del multiplied with the del multiplied with electric field, which is equal to minus 1 over capital U squared, we have second derivation of time over to second derivation of energy. So when you explore this up to the point where we equate it to 0, you can see that the ambient structure of energy will actually equal to 0. With that, we have symmetric structure of the universe. But the moment you introduce relativistic mass worth, which is what we have below, so you can see that we have capital E squared equal to P squared C squared plus M squared C to the power of 4. When you put that inside the equation, then you can get to see that we now have this asymmetric nature, because the initial part of the equation is not the same thing as the end part of the equation. But then when you look at the other side where we have the formula of everything, what do you see? You see that the trajectory of the formula of everything is vertical, and it is instant. It is even transcendental to connect to higher dimension to give us what is known as global now. Albert Einstein said that it is not possible for us to have global now because there is no feasibility of relativity of simultaneity. So if you now explore this diagram as we have it, by having a transition in form of quantum entanglement as we have right here, you can see that we have genuine contact at complex level into the quantum mechanics. That is when we have the wave collapse. When we have the collapse of wave, then we have that genuine contact as a transition from substrate dimension into higher dimension in form of quantum entanglement. But when you relate that to the classical mass worth, you can see that the classical mass worth is being suspended at the point of intersection of time to energy. And that is why it is difficult to have a global now. And that is what Albert Einstein is actually referring to, that because of the feasibility of relativity of simultaneity, it is not possible for us to have global now. But now the solution comes in form of transmission of information. So at information level, we're able to have genuine contact at complex level and then have it at classical level by transmitting information instantly. And so now we could have the global now, which has the power to cohort the globalized effect of quantum mechanics and localized effect of classical mechanics. So that is that. That being said, from what I've just explained now, we can see that by applying formula of everything, it is ideal for us to have solution to Riemann hypothesis. And then we have the solution to be that the non-trivial zeros, they are a half pointer to the O at complex level. And so if we have double worth of whatever couples of zeros we generate as non-trivial zeros, we can get the real pattern of the real worth to which that non-trivial zero is inversely related. So that is the solution. Thank you. God bless you. I remain my humble self, Shota De Olusegun.